8 spine-chilling cemetery stories revealed. We discovered the sinister truth among the graves. Emily stood at the edge of her new yard, mind racing. The forgotten cemetery peeked through the weeds, its headstones leaning like tired old men. Each creak of her modest home echoed discomfort. She had escaped an abusive relationship, but could she escape the horrors hidden in this small town? That night, whispers from the darkness crept around her as her 2 kids, Mia and Jake, began sharing stories about the graves. "There's a shadow that plays with us," her son said, eyes sparkling with terror and excitement. The hair on Emily's neck prickled. Should kids be talking about shadows at a cemetery? Every knock at the door turned her stomach. It was the isolation. The quiet, eerie surroundings pressed down on her like a weight. Mia and Jake's innocent laughter echoed, but they were talking about the figure that danced among the gravestones. She shook the thoughts away. Kids imagine things, right? Still, unease gnawed at her. Then came Mr. Grady, their neighbor, with his haunting eyes and a voice that chilled her to her core. He'd wander into her yard, sharing tales of rituals that made Emily's nightmares pale in comparison. "These graveyards hold secrets, my dear," he croaked. "Not all who sleep here are at rest." She felt a shiver slide down her spine. What did he know? Days turned into nights filled with dread and terror. Every dusk painted the sky a deeper shade of crimson as broken shadows crawled toward her home. The children's laughter pierced the silence, chilling her. "We want to meet it, Mom," Mia chirped one night, her tone light but distraught. "It's our friend." She shot a glance at Jake, who nodded earnestly. Her heart raced. What kind of friend? The kids grinned, but the joy felt wrong, like masquerading sorrow. Were they playing games with spirits of the dead? Emily found herself unraveling, suspicion growing like vines twisting around a tree. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The evening air grew heavy, thick with foreboding. Whispers traveled through the windows like moths seeking light. The town had started whispering about disappearances. Kids, friends of her own, gone without a trace, shrouded in mystery. Emily couldn't ignore that horrible knot in her gut, and it ached with every passing second. With the sun slipping below the horizon, feelings of impending doom enveloped her whole. She peeked out the window and gasped. The silhouette of that shadow from Mia and Jake's stories stood at the cemetery's edge, unmoving, watching her. Its presence twisted her insides. Dread thickened the air. What did it want with her children? Hearts pounding, Emily gripped the door handle, trembling, thoughts racing. Was she about to let in something that would seal their fates? The choice hung in the air, heavy and ominous, as she felt a dark pull from the grim figure that watched, just beyond the veil of shadows. Emily's breath quickened as she stood frozen at the door, grappling with uncertainty. The shadow, tenebrous and wicked, lingered just outside the reach of her light. She wanted to scream for Mia and Jake, but the words caught like daggers in her throat. Instead, she pulled the door shut, heart racing, straining to hear her children's voices. "Mom! Mom!" Mia called from the living room, her tone bright, glittering with excitement. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. What did they know? "Come here," she shouted back, her own voice trembling. The echo felt hollow. She wanted to envelope them in comfort, to protect them from whatever dark fate awaited in the cemetery. Mia and Jake bounded into the hallway, their faces alight with adventurous glee. "We were just talking to him," Jake gushed, his eyes wide and glimmering like polished marbles. "He said he wants to play." "Don't talk about him," Emily snapped, the urgency in her voice sliced through their joy. "What do you mean he wants to play?" Each word came out strained, filled with panic. "Yes, our friend," Mia insisted, her smile unwavering, yet it felt wrong, twisted. as if she were wrapped in a web of secrets. Emily backed away, needing distance, but her children pressed forward. "You can't make him go away, Mom," Jake said, a frown creasing his brows. "If you don't let us play with him, he will be sad." Sad? The word sank into Emily's stomach like a stone, chilling her. "But it's dangerous." She tried to explain, but the kids only giggled as they clasped hands, pulling her toward the door. "Let us all go see him." Panic clutched at Emily's heart as she glanced at the window. The shadow had stepped closer, gliding silently, its shape shifting in the halo of the yard light. "Mia, Jake, listen to me." Emily's voice rose, raw and frantic. "You don't understand. He is not a friend." Mia's grin faltered, confusion flickering in her wide eyes. "But you're scared of him, aren't you?" That simple question rattled through Emily's mind. She was terrified. Terrified of what that darker presence meant for her children. Terrified of losing them. "No, the protests caught in her throat as she heard whispers again. Faint but pressing. They reverberated with a strange melodic quality, urging her to open the door. "He needs us," they seemed to say, sending a shiver racing down her spine. Before she could contemplate another moment, the door behind her creaked open slightly, as if the wind had pushed it. She shot a glance back and the chill enveloped her. "Mom, let us play," Jake echoed, shuffling forward, encouraged by Mia, who showed no fear. "No, you need to listen." Time hung thick, momentarily suspended, as the shadow beckoned to them, its form becoming clearer. A face lingered in the gloom, forked and sinister, yet twisted into a grotesque smile. "Mommy," it whispered, little more than a breeze threading through the open door. Emily's chest tightened. "We're not going outside," she asserted, but doubt flourished as the children reached for the door. "Please," she begged. Unexpectedly, silence fell over the house, wrapping them like a shroud. The sound of their laughter faded to eerie echoes. The tension coiled tighter as the children's faces morphed into expressions of longing. Were they truly hearing an invitation? Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging her into darkness. In that heartbeat, chaos erupted, and the boundary between terror and reality began to fracture. As her heart raced in the suffocating silence, Emily made a choice. "No, we're leaving this place." But how could she escape the darkness that already seeped into her children's hearts? The moment had passed, the door now wide open, revealing an abyss she was powerless to resist. And then, without warning, Jake slipped past her, colliding with the shadow that lunged forward. "Jake!" Emily screamed, reaching out in vain as the malevolent figure enveloped him, drawing him closer, haunting whispers whispering secrets only he could comprehend. She stood paralyzed, watching as the darkness twisted around her child, heart hammering, breath caught. Was it too late to protect them? The last flicker of light faded. In this moment, deep within the chilling grip of dread, a new truth settled in. Not all shadows come from the night, some were born from the very souls of the lost. As she fumbled for the courage to chase after him, a sinister grin pierced the darkness. "You could have joined us, Emily, now it's too late." What awaited in that chilling realm was something worse than leaving. Something she couldn't even begin to fathom. Would she find Jake before the shadows took everything she loved? Or was the darkness already consuming her too? Emily felt as if time had compressed to a single, devastating moment, where the horror of her reality crystallized into a deep paralytic fear. The suffocating darkness thrummed with an almost tangible energy. It pulsed and rippled, holding her back, and she struggled to breathe. "Mia," she gasped, shifting her focus from the maelstrom of shadows to her daughter. The child stood rooted in place, eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and disbelief, transfixed by the growing influence of the dark shape consuming Jake. A guttural rasp echoed through the air, the shadow shifting and expanding, twisting into grotesque forms that danced just beyond her sight. "Mommy?" It taunted, that haunting whisper circling back like the chilling wind that rattled the windows. It coiled tight around her heart, squeezing, threatening to pull her into its depths. Mia's fingers reached for the open door, the light beyond flickering as if in protest. "Mom, we have to help him," she said, her voice sing-song, almost insistent. "Help him?" Emily's voice was laced with disbelief. "You don't understand. We need to get out. Now." But Mia appeared unaffected, entranced, as if listening to a melody only she could hear. The mere sight of her children's soft expressions twisted under the weight of something sinister rattled in Emily's core. She could see them slipping further away with each passing second. Was it possible they had already forgotten her? "Mia, come back." Emily lunged forward, but the darkness coiled around her legs as she crossed the threshold. A chilling resistance kept her from advancing. The shadows clawed at her, tendrils snaking into her mind, whispering sweet promises. "He is already ours." It felt oddly warm, lulling, but she fought it. "No," she shouted, forcing herself to push through. Her own voice felt foreign, almost a ghost of its former strength. Panic surged within her, nearly overwhelming. Mia stepped into the shadows, her figure silhouetted against the flickering light. "It'll be okay, Mom," she called, her voice unsteady yet entrancing. "We can be together." With a shiver up her spine, Emily shouted, "No, don't listen to him." It was futile. The echoes of the presence now clawed at her heart, and a part of her saw the truth. The darkness had claimed Jake. It had ensnared his innocent spirit and twisted it into something unrecognizable. Tears filled Emily's eyes as visions of her children danced before her playing in the backyard, laughter ringing like the sweetest music. "Jake, Mia!" she cried, desperation drowning her will to escape. Suddenly, a scream tore through the suffocating air, raw and haunting. It was Jake. "Mom!" he hollered, his voice mingling with the shadows. It sent ripples of dread through Emily's heart. "Please, come back," she screamed, her voice wavering. And just then, the shadows recoiled momentarily, revealing a glimmer of light. For an excruciating heartbeat, she glimpsed Jake, silhouetted against the darkness, his face contorted in panic. But there were eyes, hundreds of them, dark and watchful, pressing in around him. The warmth from the shadows began to shift, a cruel smile stretching across its formless face. "You can't save him. He belongs to us now," it taunted, and Emily's stomach churned with revulsion. She felt gravity shift, weightlessness lifting her. "You have to fight it, Jake," Emily shouted. But even as she spoke, an eerie calm washed over the children. They appeared almost ethereal, caught between this world and something far worse. "Join us, Emily," the shadow cooed, now swarming closer, bright eyes gleaming with an unnatural hunger. "Accept your fate." "No." Emily's cheeks burned with rage and fear, and she staggered back, the edge of the world crumbling beneath her. She knew then that she needed to confront this darkness not just for herself but for her children. With trembling hands, she reached for the flickering light, heart racing as she stepped into the threshold, the weight of the darkness pulling at her. All risks ignored in that moment of reckoning. "Come with me, Jake," she cried, ignoring the oppressive whispers. "We're not giving up." Could she pull them back from the void? Or would the shadows weave their web tighter, snatching away every remnant that made them whole? Time slipped away as the shadow lunged forward with a shriek, engulfing Emily in a spiral of chaos. Desperation surged through her veins. The light shimmered ahead, beckoning her into the unknown. But what would it take to snatch her children from the clutches of the grave? The shadows surged forward, clawing at Emily's mind, distorting her memories, intertwining her hopes with darkness. She could feel them tugging, pulling her back with a hunger that went beyond anything human. A cold sweat broke out across her skin, and her heart thundered in her chest like a warning bell. "Mia!" she shouted again, desperate for her daughter to remember who they were, what they had together. But there was no response. The darkness wrapped around the child with a tender cruelty that sickened Emily. "Mommy!" The shadow of Jake swayed, twisting into something unrecognizable, his voice a mere echo of what it once was. Playful, reassuring, loving. Now it taunted, a sinister mimicry of the little boy she knew. "Help me!" A shiver of impending doom ran down her spine. No, you have to stay away. Emily fought against the shadows, feeling their cold fingers clutch at her neck, squeezing tight. The pulse of the darkness throbbed in unison with her racing heart, a heartbeat that wasn't just her own. Just beyond the suffocating tendrils, the flickering light beckoned her. Free. She could feel it in her bones. If she could only reach it, they could escape this hell. But the dark shape that had claimed Jake screamed in fury as it realized her intent. Join us! The shadows roared, and the air turned electric, infused with a sickening force that shattered her resolve. Embrace the truth. He is ours now. You cannot fight the inevitable. Emily's breath hitched. Clenching her fists, her determination solidified. No, you won't take him from me. Rage flared inside her, fueled by the choking fear that gnawed at the edges of her soul. With a frantic surge of will, she stepped forward, pushing aside the shadows, feeling their icy grip start to weaken. Jake, fight it. Remember the games we played, the stories we told. She cast her voice into the tumult, hoping it would reach him. In that moment, a flicker of recognition pierced through the oppressive darkness. Jake's outline shifted slightly, a momentary struggle playing across his contorted features. Mom? He whispered, more confused than ever. Wake up, sweetheart. You're stronger than this, Emily urged, her heart racing, daring to hope, even as she felt the darkness coiling around her legs, pulling her back like an anchor. Stumbling, she charged ahead, arms outstretched toward her son. Let him go, Emily screamed, and the shadows recoiled, writhing and hissing around her. Each second dragged painfully, but the flicker of light was closer now, pulsating like a heartbeat, warming her skin. Just when she thought she could grasp the light, the shadow lunged, a wild beast darting forward, tackled her, knocking her backward with a force that felt like a blow to her chest. The whispers turned into a wailing chorus, drowning her in a cacophony of terror. No, you have no power, she shouted, digging her nails into the ground, pushing herself back up. But a sudden shift overtook her, an overwhelming wave of despair, her vision blurred by the encroaching darkness. The screams of her children melded with the echoing void. God knows what it was whispering. Join us with every ounce of strength. She pressed forward once more, the thin line of sanity fraying with each painful step. Fight, please. But as she stepped into the light, the shadows surged forward with a horrifying shriek. The air wavered, thick with dread. Suddenly, she was swept up in an abyss. Emily felt herself spiraling, the edges of her consciousness fading. Just before everything dissolved into blackness, she caught one last flicker of Jake, wide-eyed and reaching for her, confusion and fear wrestling within him. Then, silenced in that suffocating stillness, a new whisper emerged, soft but growing louder, a sinister greeting from the shadows that stretched across the darkness, enveloping her completely. What if the light is just another illusion, Emily? And in that moment of chilling clarity, she realized the truth that lingered just beyond her grasp. Something far more sinister awaited in the depths of the void. What if the true horror wasn't the treasure of shadows, but the fate that awaited them all beneath? With dread coiling tight in her gut, Emily braced herself for the revelation hiding in the dark. What ghastly truth was waiting to be uncovered? The silence cracked, brittle and sharp. Emily floated in the darkness, disoriented, straining to find her place in the void. A coolness surrounded her, pressing in like an invisible weight. She tried to focus, to shake off the overwhelming sense of dread that gnawed at her. Jake? She called out, her voice trembling. Felt futile, swallowed by the abyss. Just a murmur, lost in time. Suddenly, she felt it, a shift in the air, a stirring. The whispers returned, soft and insidious, creeping like tendrils around her thoughts. Come to us, they beckoned, each word slithering into her mind, sowing seeds of doubt. You will never escape. You belong to us. Emily's heart raced. She could not yield. No, she screamed, clenching her fists until her nails dug into her palms. But in that moment, the dark barely receded, revealing a haunting sight. In the distance, forms began to materialize, swirling mists coalescing into outlines. Faces emerged, pinched and hollow, eyes searching. These were not the shadows she feared but fragments of lost souls, drifting aimlessly like pieces of a shattered mirror. Images flickered, pieces of a life she once knew. Family gatherings, laughter echoing in the hall, tiny hands clutching hers. Warm memories twisted into grotesque versions of themselves, twisted by the very darkness she fought against. Emily, a voice rasped, familiar yet chilling. It was Jake, but not the Jake she knew. This was a fractured echo, the boy she loved smeared by shadows. It's easier here. Just give in. Terror constricted her throat. You're not my Jake. Her resolve hardened. You're just a shadow. A wave of laughter rippled through the darkness, a haunting cacophony that sent shivers trickling down her spine. He is one of us now, the chorus taunted, merging voices echoing over and over. He is at peace, will you join him? A flicker of light tugged at her, brief but vibrant, an unwavering star in the encroaching night. Emily latched onto it, desperation spurring her onward. I will not abandon my children. With each step toward the light, forms lunged at her, clawing for a piece of her spirit. You can't escape. You will always be ours. The shadows morphed into grotesque figures, their limbs twisted, hunger painted on contorted faces. With every advance toward freedom, fear seeped into her bones, threatening to anchor her in despair as the light grew closer. A sudden, biting pain pierced her heart. It felt like chains, heavy and unyielding, entwining around her. Yet the light pulsed with warmth, a promise that she could not let go of. Not now, not ever. Mommy! A tiny voice cried out, sharp and clear, cutting through the haze. It was Mia, her daughter, untainted by the darkness. Help me! Bolstered by that call, she surged forward, breaking through the dark's grasp, even as the shadows screeched in protest. Mia! A flash of light erupted, enveloping her. In those blinding seconds, she felt a tether connect her to Mia. Then the darkness shifted violently, flinging her back to the center of the abyss. Emily gasped, breathless, a new wave of numbness spreading through her limbs. The shadows shuddered, swirling around, morphing into a tangled mass that pulled at her, wrapping tighter. You cannot save them, they hissed, battling against her heart's resolve. You will join the forgotten. She felt a distinct tug, a pull into the depths. No, I will fight. I refuse to belong to you. But with each heartbeat, the suffocating shadows threatened to eclipse her strength. If she lost herself, what would happen to Mia and Jake? A deep fear took root within her, one that felt like an icy hand clutching her heart. Just as she thought she might succumb, another voice emerged, a whisper of hope, soft yet insistent. Emily, the truth lies beyond. It shimmered through the chaos like a beacon. What truth awaited? Could it be the key to freeing her children? With a renewed sense of purpose, Emily dared to move toward the whisper, swallowed whole by the dark. Where would it lead her? What sacrifice would be required to save her children? And as the shadows closed in once more, she steeled herself for whatever lay beyond, a chilling prayer lingering on her lips. What would emerge from the depths of the void? Emily felt the whisper trail off like smoke, leaving her heart pounding in the thick silence that reverberated around her. She took a deep breath, a mix of fear and resolve coursing through her veins. What lay beyond the void? Her mind raced, seeking a direction, grasping at the edges of her consciousness as she moved further. The darkness shifted in tandem with her thoughts, malicious and alive. The shadows pulsed, releasing shrieks that danced around her ears, mocking her determination. They flowed like a tide, eager to drag her down into the depths, seeking to reclaim what they deemed theirs. The voice came again, stronger this time. Accept and be free. It twisted like a serpent, slithering through her mind, warping her memories. Images danced before her. Mia's face, bright and innocent, faded into a grotesque image accompanied by laughter that rang of twisted joy. No, she turned sharply, defiance surging within her. I want to surrender, but their hunger beckoned. She could feel it, a clawing sensation at her spirit, the shadows inviting her into their fold. Each whispered promise stung like acid. Join us, Emily. You will find peace. All of this fight, it's meaningless. But handed to her like a poisoned gift was the memory of her children. She thought of Mia, her sweet smile, and the unbroken laughter they shared. She could almost hear her laughter echoing in the distance, like a warm beam piercing through the encroaching darkness, urging her on. Let me go. Let them go. She pressed forward, pushing through the chorus of wails and anguished cries. A sharp, jagged pain shot through her leg, dragging her back and sending her sprawling. The shadows leered, their faces morphed into her fears, twisting into her worst dilemmas. A mother unable to protect her children, a woman consumed by darkness. It was her own guilt twisted into a grotesque mask. Futile, they whispered, their voices a chorus descending into madness. You're too late to save them. Emily tasted salt on her cheeks, tears she had held back since this nightmare began. But she refused to let despair define her. In that abyss, she understood that she had a choice. She could succumb or fight, and she chose to fight with a fierce determination. She rose to her feet, the flicker of light pulsating in her periphery, steady and warm. She focused on it, willing it to break through the shadows. The light shimmered like a lighthouse beacon in a storm, and she would make it to shore. Another voice cut through the cacophony, deeply resonant and filled with sorrow. Emily, I am here. It was Jake again, clearer now, more defined. As horror tinged with familiarity washed over her, she instinctively lunged toward that voice, her heart hammering like a drum with hope and fear intertwined. But as she moved closer, the shadows recoiled, their grip tightening. You're losing your way. He lies. They shrieked, the whispers sharpening into agony. Images of her past faded and morphed into visions of decay, of sorrow, and unfulfilled futures, each one designed to steal her strength. Stand up, Emily. Jake's voice fought through the noise, fierce and true. We're closer than ever. In that moment, Emily made a decision born of desperation. No more. She screamed, her voice echoing through the void. A pulse of light burst from her heart, radiating outward like ripples on a still lake, pushing back the darkness. The abyss trembled, the shadows screeching in protest, trying to claw at her resolve. But she was not done yet. She lunged forward, fueled by love and unyielding determination, intent on breaking the barrier between them. The whispers turned into shrieks of rage as her light engulfed the darkness. Together, she shouted, calling for her family. And just as she felt their presence drawing near, everything collapsed into an ear-splitting silence, a lurching stillness that grounded her in uncertainty. Was it over? But as she steadied herself, the ground beneath her pulsed ominously, an unfamiliar sensation surging through her. What awaited her now? Treading on the edge of darkness and light, she was teetering somewhere new, where truths waited to be unveiled. But would the light reveal hope or a new horror? The darkness shifted again, a slow, relentless ripple that felt like a heartbeat beneath her feet. Emily hesitated, her heart thumping angrily against her ribs. Tea-colored clouds surged around her, swirling like ink spilling in water. The air grew colder, the bite of it raising goosebumps on her bare arms. She groped for the light, but it flickered, teasing her like a distant star. No! She gasped, a fierce urgency igniting her core. She willed the warmth to stay close. Fight! The ground throbbed again, this time more violently. Felt alive and angry. A low rumble echoed through the void, and a shattering scream pierced her consciousness. Shadows danced closer, their claws brushing against her skin, merging terror with icy despair. You're not meant to ascend. Embrace the fall. They taunted, voices mingling into a cacophony that sent her heart racing. Emily shot back, pushing her shoulders back and digging in her heels. You think you can take my spirit? I won't be your puppet. With resolve, she pressed forward. The light in her chest flickered wildly, illuminating the faces twisted in agony around her, a horror show of those she had lost. Their mouths gaping in silent screams, their eyes pleading. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to remember the warmth of Mia's love, the laughter they shared, and the peaceful moments they'd found tucked away from the chaos of the world. "Mom!" A small voice rang like a bell, piercing through the din. It rose from the shadows, a sweet melody that summoned memories. "Mia!" She opened her eyes, but the darkness curled tighter around her, threatening to swallow the sound whole. "Mia, where are you?" "Here, Mom." The voice echoed again, now a distant but familiar refrain. This time clearer, this time persistent. Panic clenched her gut. What if Mia was just another illusion? Did the shadows want her to follow the call, only to trap her into despair? But the rawness of her love for her daughter propelled her forward, despite the growing dread in her chest. "I'm coming." Emily dashed towards the cry, pulling energy from the anguish surrounding her. The shadows shrieked, twisting their forms into grotesque images, each one a manifestation of her greatest fears. Losing Mia, failing to protect her, the echoes of their last moments together. The air vibrated with their wrath, each step she took inciting their rage. "Come back!" They wept, their tortured voices blending into a scream. She reached for the flicker of light again, its glow intensifying with each defiant step. "You don't own me," she bellowed, stepping through the thickening shadows, carving her own path with sheer will. The wails of the lost morphed into chaotic laughter that rattled her bones, but she fought through it determined. Suddenly, just as she thought she'd reached her breaking point, the ground erupted beneath her feet, sending a shockwave upwards. Emily stumbled, arms flailing, as the darkness lashed out like a whip. A piercing light shot up from the depths below. The ground opened up, revealing a jagged maw surrounded by a blinding glow. "Mia!" she screamed, terror mingling with desperation as she battled to remain anchored. This was it. She could either plunge into the unknown or succumb to the shadows grasping at her heart. But instead of retreating, she leaped into the blinding light, her body trembling, her breath strained. If this was the final act, then she would meet it head-on. As she fell deeper into the luminous depths, everything around her shimmered, her life flashing before her eyes like a movie reel. Fragments of hope, of love, images of Jake and Mia intertwined, forming a rope of light. What lay ahead? Acceptance, clarity, or something sinister? And just as that thought hit, the light flickered violently, dimming, as the shadows swarmed closer than ever before. Emily's heart raced. Had she made a grave mistake? Rushing through the blinding light felt like tearing through the fabric of reality itself. Emily could feel every fiber of her being splintering as she plummeted deeper into the abyss. The shadows screamed, angry and relentless, as if her very essence had stirred them into a frenzied hunt. Each heartbeat echoed, a drumroll of dread, reminding her that she was not yet free. She fought to grasp the remnants of her memories, the tangible warmth of Mia's laugh, Jake's smile. Suddenly, the light flickered one last time before extinguishing entirely. Darkness swallowed her, complete and oppressive. Emily gasped. Panic tightened around her chest. The silence of the void felt like a heavy weight pressing her deeper into despair. "Mia?" she called, her voice barely a whisper against the unyielding black. No reply came, only silence that threatened to envelop her whole. The air shifted, cold fingers of shadow brushing against her arms again. They were back, weaving through the darkness like serpents hunting their prey. "You thought you could escape, but this is where you belong," they hissed, voices dripping venom. With a sudden surge of fury, she screeched back, "Get away from me." Her words hung in the air, mingling with the foul scent of decay that lingered heavily. As they resonated, something shifted in the darkness. Out of the void, a faint glow appeared just like before. Only this time, it flickered weakly, fighting against the grasp of the shadows. "Mom!" The voice was unmistakable, almost like a lifeline thrown into the dark waters of her despair. "Mia!" Desperation coiled in her stomach as she clawed towards the sound. It felt agonizingly far, like reaching for a mirage, but she surged forward, chasing the glimmer of hope. As she ran, the ground beneath her shook violently in protest. She stumbled as the shadows darted, Their whispers slithered through her ears. You 1T reach her. You can't save her. No. She shoved them off, focusing on the flicker of light. The chaos stirred around her, voices rising in a mad symphony. Fear crashed over her, but buried deeper still was the searing necessity to protect her daughter. With every ounce of willpower, she pushed through the dark, barreling toward the glow that brightened with each stride. The struggle wrapped around her like a suffocating shroud. Fight back, Emily. You can do this, she told herself, shaking off their relentless grip. She leapt toward the light, heart racing. As she neared, the darkness distorted, melting away like wax under heat, revealing a warped corridor of twisted figures and grotesque memories. Faces she recognized, some familiar, others from nightmares long past, glared back at her, their eyes hollow, mouths screaming in agony. Mia, please, she begged, moving desperately through the chaotic landscape. With every sound her feet made, the remaining shadows erupted around her, shrieking, pulling strings, trying to ensnare her in despair. Their laughter rang out, slicing her resolve. You are not worthy. You don't belong in the light. But Emily roared back. I am worthy, and I will find her. The corridor twisted again, and suddenly there was a door, solid, oak, gleaming, adorned with the markings of love that she had once traced with fingertips back when life felt normal. She ran toward it, breathless. With a mighty shove, she pushed it open, heart pounding, hope igniting once more. But as the door swung wide, her heart stopped. What lay beyond was a nightmarish reflection of her home, distorted and dripping with shadow. In the center, a figure clad in darkness stood, an eerie silhouette of Mia, her eyes wide but vacant. And just beyond her, a vast chasm carved through the floor, a swirling vortex of shadow and light. Mom, help me. The words tumbled out, but they were laced with a chilling void. No, Emily screamed, but she felt the pull of the vortex, cold and unrelenting. Before she could think, she staggered forward, trying to reach Mia, but the floor cracked under her weight, crumbling like her resolve. Stay back. A chilling voice echoed from the darkness behind her. It was intertwined with her shadow, gripping her heart tighter than she could ever anticipate. Her pulse quickened. Was Mia truly there, or merely a cruel trick of the shadows? In that fleeting moment, as everything teetered on the brink, Emily realized she had a choice to make. Would she plunge into the depths after a mirage, or break the chains the shadows had wrapped around her soul? The shadows whispered, choose wisely. And just then, as she swayed between love and fear, the chasm yawned wider, and the darkness beckoned her closer. The shadows pulsed with dark energy, pulling at Emily's very being as she grappled with the immense choice before her. The vortex twisted, a spine of terror that echoed the cries of the damned. Mom, help me. Mia's voice came again, but it was different this time, tinged with desperation, tinged by malice. Time stretched, every heartbeat thundering in her ears. What do I do? She thought, the shadows closing in, their cold laughter weaving around her like a net. It felt like a cruel maze, leading endlessly into horror. Leap! A voice? Hers, or was it an echo from the abyss? Fueled by instinct, she surged toward the chasm. It was wrong, and yet Mia was there. She had to try, but the shadows slithered, rearing back as if knowing her intent. Foolish woman, they screeched. You cannot save what is not yours. Emily plunged forward, ignoring the warnings. A jump, a desperate grasp at her daughter, and she felt the ground shift beneath her as reality warped again. The world became a whirlwind of chaos, and in that same moment, darkness coiled around her body, the shadows snatching at her as she fell. Her fingers brushed something, the cold chill of Mia's hand, or so she thought. I'm here, she gasped, pulling and pulling. But the weight of the shadows bore down, mingling with the cool void. The connection slipped like water through her fingers, and she screamed, Mia! Suddenly the whirlpool stopped. Silence crashed over everything, like a heavy blanket smothering the sounds of agony. Emily blinked, disoriented. She was no longer in the corridor or on the precipice. She stood in a graveyard, The sky a roiling mass of black clouds choked with shadows. Headstones jutted from the earth like jagged teeth, and a stark chill clung to the air. Panic swirled anew. What just happened? She spun around, searching for Mia. There had to be a way to find her, to save her. The grave markers began to shift and change, eyes and mouths forming in grim faces, whispering her name in muted tones of dread. Emily, Emily, stop, she cried, trembling as the shadows began to gather again. It sharpened, solidifying into a familiar form creeping toward her, the echo of something long buried within her heart. What do you want from me? She stepped back, her heart racing faster than her breaths. But it wouldn't let her go. Mom! It was unmistakable. Mia's voice carried through the mist, but there was something wrong. Rings of fear coiled in Emily's stomach. Stay away. A shadow loomed behind her, and she whipped around, raising her fists. It was a figure cloaked in draped darkness, the very form of despair. Have you come to join them? Taunted voice like gravel scraping against glass. Emily's thoughts spiraled, struggling to find clarity. No, I'm here for Mia. Are you? The figure moved closer, and she felt the shadows press in. She could see what lay behind the veil, twisted mirrors of her past, a broken family, a lost innocence, the last look of pain on Jake's face the day he left. Mia's sob clawed its way up as she glimpsed her daughter, flickering in the distance. The graveyard a realm of illusion, suffocating and dangerous. Help me, Mommy, the echoes drifted like a dying breeze. Please, the shadows flowed around, weaving through her legs, threatening to swallow her whole. If she didn't act now, she might lose Mia forever. Do I face my past or dive into the dark? Emily whispered, shuddering as she felt the tender pull of humanity beneath the horror. She squared her shoulders against the shadows, potentially claiming her. I choose to fight. With a fierce roar, she lunged forward, the cemetery trembling beneath her feet, gates of darkness starting to crack and shatter around her. The figure loomed larger, more menacing, and the shadows screeched in disarray as she barreled toward the light toward Mia. But just as she reached for her daughter, the landscape began to crumble, and she felt the earth give way beneath. Mom! Mia's face warped in agony, the shadows coiling tighter around her. Fingers reached towards Mia. I'm not letting you go. Just then, the ground quaked, violently, threatening to engulf everything. Emily's heart raced. Time seemed to stop as she teetered on the edge of oblivion. Would she be swept away into darkness? Or would she break free? The chasm called to her. The shadows shrieked, and she felt everything she loved slipping away. Was this the end or a rebirth? The ground shook violently beneath her feet, and she was about to find out. Emily stood at the precipice of despair, the cacophony of shadows screeching in her ears, twisting her heart with fear. Mia! She cried out desperately, her voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. The ground trembled beneath her feet as the darkness coiled tighter, pulling her back into the void. She could not, would not, let the shadows take her daughter. In an act of sheer will, Emily pushed forward, reaching for Mia's outstretched hands. I'm right here. I'm coming. Each step felt like wading through deep water, but she fought against the current, each ounce of her love propelling her forward. The specter of despair loomed larger than ever, but she could see the flicker of her daughter's spirit shining through the murky darkness. Mom! Mia's voice quivered, caught in the grip of shadows that stretched and twisted like serpents ready to strike. They hissed, a chorus of sinister whispers attempting to drown out Emily's resolve. You can't win. You have lost. Their laughter ricocheted in Emily's mind, a tormenting echo that threatened to steal her strength. You don't know me, she shouted, fierce and defiant. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them away, determination burning bright within her chest. I will fight. For my children. In that moment, a sudden rush of warm light enveloped her, a golden beam splitting through the dark clouds that hung above. Emily felt its warmth bathing her skin, illuminating the grotesque forms around her. The shadows shrank back, their cries turning to howls as they recoiled from the purifying light that burst forth from her heart. Together, she screamed, willing her children to feel that light, to draw strength from it, to remember who they were. The shadows recoiled, wailing in agony, their forms dissolving like smoke. Remember the laughter, the games, the love we share. Fight back. Mia's face flickered before her, clearer now, a shining beacon in the darkness. Mommy, she called, and a glimmer of hope sparked in Emily's heart. She saw her son Jake standing beside her, not lost in darkness but vibrant, alive, his eyes filled with courage. Jake! Mia! Emily cried, stretching out her hand. Her heart pounded with a rhythm of hope and faith, urging her to believe. With a thunderous roar, the shadows erupted, darkness swirling like a storm. But Emily, now radiant with purpose, ran. She crossed into the light, the shadows clawing at her, their screams drowning in the luminous glow. No, we will not give in. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and with one final leap of faith, she grasped their hands. The moment their fingers intertwined, an explosion of blinding light cascaded around them, severing the chains that bound them to the darkness. Emily pulled them close, their hearts echoing as one. I love you, always, she shouted, the words ricocheting into the dark like a battle cry. As the shadows screamed and surged, their hold shattered like glass, fragments of despair falling away like dust in the wind. Then silence. Emily blinked as the world around them transformed. They stood at the edge of the cemetery, the sun rising behind them, casting away the night. The headstones shimmered, their gloom dissipating under the warmth of dawn. The air was fresh, filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers. Mama! Jake shouted, his voice bright and clear, laughter thrumming in his chest. We did it. Mia's smile lit up the dawn, innocence restored. We're free, she cried, leaping into Emily's arms. Tears streamed down Emily's face as she held her children tightly, feeling their warmth and the pure essence of life coursing through her. They were safe. They had faced darkness together and had emerged victorious. The bond they shared was unbreakable, forged in the fires of fear and despair. Let us go home, Emily whispered, kissing the tops of their heads, a sense of peace washing over her as they stepped away from the cemetery. Emily glanced back one last time. The shadows had been banished, but she understood now what lingered beneath. They were not merely echoes of forgotten souls, but reminders of love, resilience, and the undying fight for those we cherish. Together, they walked into the light, their laughter dancing with the breeze. A promise echoed in the air. Love conquers all. And as Emily embraced the morning sun, the world around them blossomed with hope, an infinity of moments waiting to be lived just beyond the horizon. If you found this story gripping, you need to subscribe now. You can't let these tales slip away. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us spread more chilling stories just like this. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? What's your take? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Stand with us in this journey. We can't do it without true fans like you.